All right, so now it's time for our read aloud for today. We're going to read a few chapters out of Wonder. The question that you need to answer today on Google Classroom is, how is Augie's day going so far on his first day of school? And use evidence from the text to prove it. So if you're saying that he is having a good day at school today, so far, how do you know? What happened so far in the story to prove he's having a good day? If he's not having a good day, how do you know? You need to use the evidence from what I'm reading to you to help you answer those questions. So here we go. We're going to dive right in. First day jitters. We heard that book. Okay, so I have to admit that the first day of school, I was so nervous. The butterflies in my stomach were more like pigeons flying around in my insides. Mom and Dad were probably a little nervous too. They acted all excited for me, taking pictures of me and Via before we left for the house for school, since it was Via's first day of school too. Up until a few days ago, we still weren't sure I would be going to school at all. After my tour of the school, Mom and Dad had reserved sides on whether I should go or not. Mom was the one now saying that I shouldn't go, and Dad was the one saying I should. Dad had told me he was really proud of how I handled myself with Julian and that I was turning out to be quite the strong young man. And I heard him tell my mom that he thought that she had been right all along, but Mom, I could tell, wasn't so sure anymore. When Dad told her that he and Via wanted to walk me to school today too, since it was on the way to the subway station, Mom seemed relieved that we would all be going together, and I guess I was too. Even though Breacher Prep is just a few blocks from our house, I only been on the block a couple of times before. In general, I try to avoid blocks where there are all kinds of kids roaming around. On our block, everybody knows me, and I know everybody. I know every brick and every tree trunk and every crack on the sidewalk. I know Miss Grimaldi, the lady who's always sitting by her window, and the old guy who walks up and down the street whistling like a bird. I know the deli on the counter where Mom gets our bagels, and the waitresses at the coffee shops who all call me honey and give me lollipops whenever they see me. I love my neighborhood of North River Heights, which is why it was so strange to be walking down these blocks feeling like it was all new to me all of a sudden. Amherst Avenue, a street I've been down a million times, looked totally different for some reason. Full of people I never saw before, waiting for buses, pushing strollers. We crossed Amherst and turned up to Heights Place. Via walked next to me like she usually does, and Mom and Dad were behind us. As soon as we turned the corner, we saw all the kids in front of the school. Hundreds of them talking to each other in little groups, laughing or standing with their parents who were talking with other parents. I kept my head down, way down. Everyone's just as nervous as you are, said Via in my ear. Just remember that this is everyone's first day of school, okay? Mr. Tishman was greeting students and parents in front of the entrance. I have to admit, so far, nothing bad had happened. I didn't catch anyone staring at me or even noticing me. Only once did I look up to see some girls looking my way, whispering and their hand cupped over their mouths. But they looked away when they saw me noticing them. We reached the front entrance. Okay, so this is it, big boy, said Dad, putting his hands on top of my shoulders. Have a great first day of school. I love you, said Via, giving me a big hug and a kiss. You too, I said. I love you too, Augie, said Dad, hugging me. Bye. Then Mom hugged me. I could tell she was about to cry, which would have been totally embarrassing for me. So I just gave her a fast, hard hug, turned and disappeared into the school. Here's the next chapter, locks. I went straight to room 301 on the third floor. Now I was glad that I had gone on a little tour because I knew exactly where to go and didn't have to look up once. I noticed that some of the kids were definitely staring at me now. I did my thing, pretending not to notice. Then I went inside the classroom and the teacher was writing on the chalkboard while all the kids were sitting in different desks. The desks were a half circle facing the chalkboard. So I chose a seat in the middle towards the back, which I thought would make it harder for everyone to stare at me. So I still kept my head down, just looking up enough from under my bangs to see everyone's feet. As the desk started to fill up, I noticed that no one sat down next to me. A A couple of times someone was about to sit next to me, then changed his or her mind at the last minute and sat somewhere else. Hey, August. It was Charlotte giving me her little wave as she sat down at the desk in front of the class. Why anyone would ever choose to sit in the front of the class, I don't know. Hey, I said, nodding hello. Then I noticed Julian was sitting a few seats away from her, talking to some other kids. I know he saw me, but he didn't say hello. Suddenly, someone was sitting down next to me. It was Jack Will. Jack. What's up? He said, nodding at me. Hey, Jack, I whispered, waving my hand, which I immediately wish I hadn't done because I felt kind of uncool. Okay, kids. Okay, everybody, settle down, said the teacher, who's now facing us. She had written her name on the board, Miss Petosa. Everybody find a seat. Please come in. She said to the couple of kids who had just walked into the room. There's a seat right there and there. She hadn't noticed me yet. Now, the first thing I want everyone to do is stop talking and, she noticed me, put your backpacks down and quiet down. She only hesitated for a millisecond, but I could tell the moment she saw me, like, I'm used to it by now. I'm going to take attendance and do a seating chart, she said, continuing sitting on the edge of her desk. Now, next to her, there were 3 neat rows of accordion folders. When I call your name, come up and I'll hand you a folder with your name on it. It contains your class schedule, your combination lock, which you should not try to open until I tell you to. Your locker number is written on the class schedule. Be forewarned that some of the lockers are not right outside this classroom, but down the hall. And before anyone ever thinks of asking, no, you cannot switch lockers and you can't switch locks. Then, if there's some time at the end of period, we're all going to get up and get to know each other a little bit better, okay? Okay. She picked up the clipboard on her desk and started reading the names out loud. So Julian Albans, she said, looking up. Julian raised his hand and said here at the same time. Hi, Julian, she said, marking a note on her seating chart. She picked up the very first folder, held it out to him. Come pick it up, she said, kind of no nonsense. He had gotten up and took it from her. Eczema chin. She handed her a folder to a kid as she read off the names. As she went down the list, I noticed that the seat next to me was the only one empty still, even though there were 2 kids sitting at one desk a few seats away. When she called the name of one of them, a big kid named Henry Joplin, who already looked like a teenager, she said, Henry, there's an empty desk over there. Why don't you take it? She handed him a folder, pointing to the desk next to mine. Although I didn't look at him directly, I could tell that Henry did not want to move next to me, just by the way he was dragging his backpack along the floor as he came over. He was moving in slow motion. Then he plopped his backpack up real high on the right side of the desk so it was kind of like a wall between his desk and mine. Maya Martwitz, said Mrs. Petosa. Here, said the girl, about 4 desks down from me. Miles Newry. Here, said the kid, who'd been sitting with Henry Joplin. As he walked his back to his desk, I shot Henry a poor you look. August Pullman, Mrs. Petosa said. Here, I said quietly, raising my hand a bit. Hi, August, she said, smiling at me nicely, and I went up to get to my folder. I kind of felt like everyone's eyes were burning into my back for a few seconds as I stood at the front of the class, and everybody looked down when I walked back to my desk. I resisted spinning the combination when I sat down, even though everyone else was doing it, because she had specifically told us not to. I was already pretty good at opening locks anyway because I'd been using them on my bike. Henry kept trying to open his lock but couldn't do it, and he was getting kind of frustrated and kind of cursing under his breath. Miss Petosa called out a few names. Then the last name was Jack Will. After she handed Jack his folder, she said, okay, so everybody write down your combination somewhere safe so you won't forget it, okay? But if you do forget it, which happens at least at 3.2 times per semester, Miss Garcia has a list of all the combination numbers. Now go ahead, take your locks out of your folders, and you can spend a couple minutes practicing how to open them. Though I know some of you went ahead and did that anyways. She was looking at Henry, and when she said that. And in the meantime, I'll tell you guys a little something about myself. And then you guys can tell me a little something about yourselves. And we'll get to know each other. Sounds good? Good. She smiled at everybody, though I felt like she was smiling mostly at me. It wasn't a shiny smile like Miss Garcia's smile, but a normal one like she meant it. She looked very different from what I thought teachers were going to look like. I guess she looked like Miss Fowl from Jimmy Neutron, an old lady with a big bun on top of her head. But in fact, she kind of looked like Mon Mothma from Star Wars Episode 5. Haircut kind of like a boy's, and a big white shirt, kind of like a tunic. She turned around and started writing on the chalkboard. Henry still couldn't get his lock open, and he was getting more and more frustrated every time someone plopped one open. He got really annoyed when I was able to open mine on the first try. And the funny thing is, if he hadn't have put his backpack between us, I would have definitely offered to help him. And this will be the last chapter we're reading, called Around the Room. Miss Petosa told us a little bit about who she was, and it was boring stuff about where she originally came from and how she's always wanted to teach and why she left her job on Wall Street about 6 years ago to pursue her dream in teaching kids. She ended by asking anyone if they had any questions, and Julian raised his hand. Yes, she said. She had to look at the list to remember his name, Julian. That's cool that you're pursuing your dreams, he said. Thank you. You're welcome, he said proudly. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Julian? Actually, here's what I want everyone to do. Think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. Actually, wait a minute. How many of you came from the Breacher Lower School? About half the kids raised their hand. Okay, so a few of you know each other already, but the rest of you, I guess, are new to the school, right? Okay, so everybody think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. And if you know some of the other kids, try not to think of things that they would already know, okay? Okay, so let's start with Julian. We'll go around the room. Julian scrunched up his face and started tapping his forehead like he was thinking really hard. Okay, whenever you're ready, Miss Sosa said. Okay, so number 1 is that, do me a favor, start with your name, okay? Miss Petosa interrupted. It'll help me remember who everyone is. Okay. So my name is Julian, and the number 1 thing I'd like everyone to tell everyone about myself is that I got Battleground Mystic for my Wii, and it's like totally awesome. And number 2 is we got a ping pong table this summer. Very nice. I love ping pong, said Miss Petosa. Does anyone have any questions for Julian? Is Battleground Mystic multiplayer or 1? Said a kid named Miles. Not those kind of questions, guys, said Miss Petosa. Okay, so how about you? She pointed at Charlotte, probably because her desk was the closest to the front. Oh, sure. Charlotte didn't hesitate even for a second, like she knew exactly what she wanted to say. My name's Charlotte. I have 2 sisters, and we got a new puppy named Skew in July. We got her from an animal shelter, and she's so cute. That's great, Charlotte. Thank you, said Miss Petosa. Okay, who's next? I lied to you. We're going to do 1 more chapter, and this will be for real the last chapter, and it's called Lamb to the Slaughter. Okay, who's next? Like a lamb to the slaughter, something that you say about someone who goes somewhere calmly, not knowing something unpleasant's about to happen to them. I Googled it last night. That's what I was thinking when Miss Petosa called my name, and suddenly it was my turn to talk. My name's August, I said. Yeah, kind of mumbled it. What? Someone said. Can you speak up, honey? Said Miss Petosa. My name's August, I said louder, forcing myself to look up. And I have a sister named Via and a dog named Daisy. And that's about it. Wonderful, said Miss Petosa. Any questions for August? No one said anything. Okay, you're next. And she pointed to Jack. Wait, I have a question for August, said Julian, raising his hand. Why do you have that tiny braid in the back of your hair? Is that like a Padawan thing? Yeah, I shrugged. What's a Padawan thing, said Miss Petosa, smiling at me. It's from Star Wars, said Julian. A Padawan is a Jedi apprentice. Oh, interesting, answered Miss Petosa, looking at me. So you're into Star Wars, August. I guess I nodded, not looking up because I just really wanted to slide under my desk. Who's your favorite character, Julian asked. I started to think maybe he wasn't so bad. Jango Fett. What about Darth Sidious, he said. Do you like him? Okay, guys, you can talk about Star Wars stuff at recess, said Miss Petosa cheerfully. But let's keep going. We haven't heard from you yet, she said to Jack. Now it was Jack's turn to talk, but I admit I didn't hear a word he said. Maybe no one got the Darth Sidious reference, and maybe Julian didn't mean anything by it at all. But Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Darth Sidious' face gets burned by Sith lightning and becomes totally deformed. His skin gets all shriveled up, and his whole face just kind of melts. I peeked at Julian, and he was looking at me. Yeah, He knew exactly what he was saying. All right, so go ahead and log into Google Classroom and go ahead and answer the question. How is Augie's first day of school going so far? I look forward to hearing your responses. See you later.